Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, my friends, depending on where you're tuning in from. As my name is Lewis, and we are here with the BoSTEM initiative, supplying you with virtual opportunities to hear about STEM career pathways. As we are here today to learn about what it's like to pursue a STEM career pathway in a lot of different industries. And today we have a special guest who's here to talk about the sciences. So if you're interested in science, health science, environmental science, or even a small smidge of computer science, I think you're in for a treat because we're going to dive into both aspects, both science and computer technology with today's session. But without further ado, if you're listening in, please join me in welcoming our special guest, Laura. Hi, Laura.
Hi, and hi to everyone who's watching. My name is Laura Brown. I am a registered nurse at Mass General Hospital. I work on an oncology unit, mostly for patients with blood cancers, so like leukemia, lymphoma, and a lot of them are getting bone marrow transplants. And I've been doing this now for 20 years, and I've seen a lot of growth in this. So any of you who are interested in the sciences, I can tell you there is so much out there. And in my experience in healthcare, there's so much growth, whether you want to be a bedside nurse as I've been, or if you'd like to go more into like a physician type of route, which could be a nurse practitioner or physical therapy, or all of those things are fabulous. How I got to where I am, I grew up actually in a small town in Illinois. So I'm actually not originally from Massachusetts or Boston. And when I was young, my grandmother actually was ill with cancer. So that really inspired me to want to help people, help them feel better. And so I went to nursing school right out of college, actually to kind of a smaller university. And my first job as a nurse actually was in a smaller community like hospital, where I got a very wide range of experiences. And then I had an opportunity. I wanted to do something different. And I decided to move to Boston when I was in my 20s. And I came here to Boston and I went to Mass General. And it was a big culture shock for me because I came from a hospital that had maybe like 100 medical beds and to a hospital that has 1,000. So it was much different. And it was also different too because the cultural diversity. Like I met a lot of people from different backgrounds, speaking different languages, because I pretty much grew up in a predominantly town that was predominantly white. There was a little bit of ethnic backgrounds, but not a lot. So it was a big change for me, but a wonderful one. I've learned a lot and made friends from all different backgrounds. And then I went back to school to get my master's in nursing. I got it in nursing education. And I did that primarily online, actually, which was also another experience for me because I had only done in the classroom. And I can say that there is a benefit to both. So if you're thinking about, do I want to do like online learning? Do I want to do in the classroom? I definitely see there's benefits to both. And I think a mixture of both is actually a really good thing. And then once I got my master's in nursing education, I actually got an opportunity to kind of go to from the clinical side as a nurse to kind of more the computer technology side. And so I actually am now what's called an EPIC Credentialed Trainer, which means that I've learned the EPIC system that we use to document information. So physicians, pharmacists, nurses, all throughout the Mass General Brigham network use EPIC. And it's a computer program that we use to document everything from notes to vital signs to all kinds of things, test results. So I teach it. I actually teach that now. So I'm kind of like computer technology, but also teaching, so education. So I think that's a good example of how you can be interested in one area like I was in nursing, and then you can take that and you can grow into something else. If you're interested in education or interested in computers, there's so many ways you can kind of cross connect some of your interests together. So now I work full time as an EPIC Credentialed Trainer, and then I also still work as a nurse at Mass General per diem. So kind of a little bit of best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm sure your schedule is full of awesome experiences, both like you mentioned, bedside and kind of being in the classroom. What were some of your favorite classes in school, Laura? I mean, this is a really exciting position to be in. You're kind of dibbling, dabbling in both worlds, both computer science and the sciences. What would be some of like the classes that you took in high school or even after high school that you felt influenced you to kind of say, you know what, I think this is for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it in high school, I really loved my science classes. I actually loved anatomy and physiology. With the high school I went to, we actually got to dissect a fetal pig. So I thought that was
Ooh,
really interesting to see everything in there and how does the body work and how does it all function together. And then I also really liked, I was actually, as joke with my friends, I was a band geek. I really loved music, and so I was in the band as well. But I think that's a, even though that's not a science, it's a good thing to have, because then you're kind of again bringing everything you're interested in together. Because like as I see now in the hospital, a lot of therapies are alternative therapies. So it could be like music therapy or art therapy, pet therapy. All of those things touch people in a healing way. So I would say in high school, my favorites were probably band. I played the flute, and I'd say anatomy physiology. And did also really like, I had a history teacher I liked, even though history
yeah.
was not my absolute favorite subject, but I had a really cool teacher. And I think that goes to say a lot of you have probably had a teacher who's really made a difference in your life. And that really makes a difference for what you like further as you grow. In college, I would say my favorite things that classes, I mean, I had nursing classes, obviously. As for other classes, I actually took a philosophy class that was really interesting. It was called speciesism. It was like on animal rights. And I found that really, really interesting, people's perspectives and learning more about what was out there and all of that, which I thought was really neat. And when I got my master's, what was interesting there was I learned a lot more about, and this may sound boring, but I learned a lot more about like the financial kind of aspect of things. I had to kind of take a little more financial business, healthcare management type of course. And that was really interesting to me because it wasn't something that I had really thought much about or really knew a lot about. So that was great too to learn. So I feel like as we grow, we're constantly learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's helpful for us to just hear like what are some of the classes that are out there that folks have taken or that our students should expect that might again paint that pathway forward for them. It makes me think, Laura, about some of the skills or interests or even abilities that you're kind of highlighting with your career pathway journey. What do you think might be like key or preferred kind of like interest, abilities, or skills that you would think might be required in a position like this, whether it be bedside nursing or teaching in the clinical field?
I would definitely say some people might say, oh, you need to have straight A's. And I actually disagree. You don't absolutely have to have straight A's to be the best nurse or to be the best teacher. I think we learn by what we get wrong. We learn from that and move on. So I would say that the best skills to have would be to have a drive, to have a desire to do what it is that you want to do and to have a passion for it. So, like for me, for nursing, I always tell people going into nursing school that if you're interested in nursing, you're interested in healthcare, go into it for the right reason, which is that you want to help people. It's a service oriented profession. It's not necessarily the goal to make a lot of money. Yes, it is a stability job, it's a stable job, but at the same token, it's a service. You're helping people. So I always feel like having a passion for what you want to do. The second thing is I would say being willing to work hard, being willing to really keep yourself focused and to do well. That's not to say you can't have fun, but to stay focused for your goal. And then also I think three is to be willing and understand that change occurs and be willing to know that change is going to happen and being willing to adapt because change happens a lot. And so I think finding a way to best be able to adapt to the changes around you, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in teaching, whether it's in computers, if you want to go into management, whatever, things are always changing.
Mhm, mhm. Really important advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Students, as I mean, kind of focusing in on a career pathway in STEM isn't necessarily the easiest kind of decision to make or journey to take. So it makes me think about some of the times where you're facing a challenge, Laura, or any other person who's in this kind of same experience. What do you find to be sources of support? I believe, or I would assume that this position is primarily solo, like you work independently, not really collaborating a lot, or you might. Could you talk to us a little bit more about the social element of your job? Do you work alone? Do you collaborate with others? And what are the supports available when you are challenged?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as a nurse working at Mass General, I work in patients, so I there's a lot of nurses on my unit, and so in a sense, you work alone because you're going into a patient's room to do an assessment on your own, but you're part of a larger group. I'm part of this larger group of people taking care of this patient. So it's really a team effort taking care of the patient. And along with that, you get to know people and it does get to be social. We
Mhm.
have times where, recently it's been the holidays. So when we have the holidays, people might bring in some cookies or bring in something for everybody to share, and it makes for a fun time, and we share our experiences with taking care of our patients and help each other when we need help, because I think that's a really big thing to know is any environment you work in, and again, I always say this to new nurses I've trained, is that don't be afraid to ask questions, because there may be somebody else who has the same question who may be afraid to ask it. And if you don't ask the question, it's okay to say you don't know. I think some people think that if I ask the question, they're going to think I'm dumb. No, not going to think you're dumb, because not everybody doesn't know everything. So if you ask the question, you're already being smart because you're bringing up, hey, I don't really know much about this. So can you share this info with me? So I would say as a nurse, I definitely work in a team collaborative effort. As a EPIC trainer, I'm also in a team. It's a little bit different dynamic because we have some people who work remotely and some people who work on site. So my role actually as a trainer is considered a hybrid role, meaning that some days I can work from home and train a class from home, but other days I actually go into the office and I actually teach a class in person. So it's kind of a variety. And then my colleagues that work with me, some of them are primarily from home and I don't see them as often, but we stay in touch virtually. If I have questions or they have questions, we interact online. So again, it's still a team. It's still a team, just a little bit different dynamic than like my nursing floor. So I would say that in most jobs you have to be able to kind of do some things independently, but then it's great when you're part of a team, because then you have people that can help you with stuff and you can help them with things too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here in the BoSTEM world, we share the term growth mindset with students, and you're hitting the nail right on the head with that. So thank you again for reaffirming for our students that yes, having a growth mindset is important and it does translate into the real world.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. It does.
Laura, we've said a lot and we've heard a lot about your experience. I mean, it's such an exciting role to be having the duality of working inpatient and serving patients, but then on the flip end, helping to educate and support the clinical staff. I'm really curious to hear about what do you think might be your favorite part of your typical day, understanding that there's a lot of flexibility and changes happening. What do you think kind of keeps you at your position, considering that some students who might be listening are like, I want to be a nurse, but now that I know that this is an option, oh my goodness, how do I make that happen? So yeah, please share with us, what do you think is your favorite part with all the excitement happening?
Absolutely. I would say my favorite part of being a nurse is getting to meet so many people and getting to help them through whatever it is that they're going through. And when I see that patient doing well and are discharged, they go home and have follow-up treatment and go into remission. Like, that's a really good feeling that I helped that person overcome what was going on with them. So that's obviously a really good feeling. The other favorite things that I would like with nursing is that I get to work with so many amazing people. I get to work with amazing physicians, pharmacists, therapists, nurses aides, front desk staff, like just the number of people that I get to meet and get to work with is just amazing, and so many different backgrounds and educational levels. And then I would say in my teaching role, same thing. I get to meet so many amazing people. So my favorite thing with teaching is that actually some of my favorite students are travel nurses, actually, because they come from other parts of the country and they come here for 3-4 months to work as a travel nurse. And they can say, oh, I was in San Diego, and then I was in Seattle, and then I was in Houston, and now I'm in Boston, and I'm next going to go to Chicago or whatever. And so it's really neat to hear their stories, because being a nurse ideally is the same everywhere, but it's a little different because hospitals do have different protocols. They do have different ways that they operate. And I think that that's just the same as any kind of business. For an example, you could go into, say, an Old Navy store, right, in one city, and go into another Old Navy store in another city, very similar stuff, but different. Like maybe the way that the store is designed is different, or maybe the way the people who work there, the way that they talk to you or whatever is different. And so it's something interesting to learn how people can be like in the same role, but work at other places, and how it can be different. So I feel like I learn something all the time from these travel nurses.
Yeah.
And I find that really fun to hear their experiences. And it's fun if they've never been to Boston, they'll ask me, they're like, well, where is there to go? What is there to do? And it's fun to share that, of what's fun to do here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, goodness, the excitement. Thank you so much for sharing that, Laura. Students, we are nearing the end of our session here, unfortunately, but I just wanted to thank you for tuning in and listening. Laura, I just want to say thank you for sharing your career pathway journey with us. Really exciting stuff. I personally didn't know that the nursing career could kind of take that many different directions. So thank you for educating myself and, of course, our listeners here today. We are here nearing the end. So I just wanted to close with a piece of advice or anything you would like to leave our listeners with.
I would say that if you're still not sure what you want to do, that's okay. If you're in high school and you're just like, I'm feeling pressured and I just don't know what I want to do, that's okay. In time, as you get more experiences and you go to whatever college or community college or work or whatever it is you choose to do, you'll learn things along the way. And then as you pick up those things, you'll get kind of ideas of something you're interested in. And it's also okay if you go into college and you're like, you start out saying, I want to do pre-med, I want to be a doctor. And it's just too difficult, or you just find you don't want to do it. And then you change paths that you want to be a physical therapist. There's nothing wrong with that. So just be kind to yourself. It's a journey. And we've all been there, people who are experienced in the medical field and stuff. We've been there. We've all been at a starting position. So just know that it's a journey. It takes time, and be kind to yourself and surround yourself with people and things that are going to be supportive to you and help you get through your journey.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Again, students, I want to say thank you for joining us. So happy that we could have this session for you. But if you're looking to continue conversations outside of this session, reach out to your educator. They have my contact information, and I can find ways to kind of build more conversation around career at Mass General, nursing, or just connecting with Laura and talking more about her pathway journey. But again, we are here at the end of our STEM chat session. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you, Laura, for taking the time out of your super busy schedule to join us and share your story. We are so thankful to have you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. It was good to chat.
Likewise. All right, students. Well, have a great rest of the afternoon and the rest of the school year. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and we'll see you at the next session.